right, what's going on, Sooner Nation? So, in last night's coaches show, Brent Venables shared some insights that could really spark a new hope among Sooner fans. You guys see what I did there? A new hope, like Star Wars. But basically talking about some player updates and potentially a vision for what the Oklahoma offense could look like. Really, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you feel optimistic with what Brent Venables was hinting at in terms of maybe a resurgence in this wide receiver room coming in 2025, but also some players that maybe could make a comeback in the 2024 season. And we got to talk about it today. Before we do that, as always, make sure you guys join the discussion. Jump down in the comments below. Give me your guys' thoughts. Make sure you guys hit that like and hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out more than you guys actually know. So, we got to talk about this wide receiver room for Oklahoma because this was where Brent Venables was really asked some questions. And actually, before we get into the wide receiver room, we got to talk about probably some other big news that was announced. And it was he announced Jackson Arnold is going to be the starting quarterback over Michael Hawkins at Ole Miss. And I would imagine, unless Jackson Arnold has some other collapse like he did against Tennessee, he's probably the quarterback that you're going to see for the rest of the season. Now, the question is, does the quarterback play get better now that Kevin Johns has been elevated to a co-OC and the official quarterbacks coach? I don't know. I know that Michael Hawkins and Jackson Arnold were already working with Kevin Johns. Now, in what degree? I guess that remains to be seen. So not sure how much of the change comes in terms of the development with Jackson Arnold at this time. But it's good to know that you're going to try to get some continuity here. And like I said, I would imagine Arnold's probably going to be your starter for the rest of the season, unless he has some other collapse like he did against Tennessee, which I don't know if you put Michael Hawkins in at that point or if you try Casey Thompson. But we'll cross that road when we get there. Now, the biggest news that was announced in the coaches show was he was talking about the wide receivers. And I was talking about this with you guys last week. And I said, if you guys don't want to watch the coaches show, you guys don't want to watch these interviews, then make sure you follow a guy like George Stoya or Josh Calloway or Tom Verde on Twitter. They're with Sooner Scoop or 247. They go to these interviews. They provide you the highlights and the quotes from BV and some of the other coaches. So if you just kind of want the cliff notes or the spark notes, make sure you follow them over on Twitter, and it's going to be really easy to find there. But one of the quotes that George Stoya put out from Venables was that he indicated that Andrel Anthony wants to come back to OU next season, and he could potentially play this year. Now, that's really good news for Oklahoma because I've kind of sat here and told you guys I didn't think Andrel Anthony was going to return this season. Now, the fact that it's been led with that he wants to return next year makes me think he's probably not returning this season outside of a bowl game. He can return to the bowl game and not lose his eligibility, but if he comes back anytime this season, I would imagine he loses that eligibility and he wouldn't be able to come back. So remember, Andrel Anthony, before he got hurt last year, guys, 27 receptions, 429 yards, and he had 1 touchdown. You get him back next year, and I think you feel really good about this wide receiver core because he also alluded to Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson wanting to potentially come back. Now, that's good news because Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson coming back, those are 2 really sizable dudes and guys that you were really excited for this year. Now, the only difference is Jaden Gibson can't come back this year. He's got a full year recovery. Nick Anderson, though, had a bad torn quad that usually takes 3 months to heal. Now, the question is, when did this quad tear? And if it was torn in the Tennessee game, you would imagine Nick Anderson's probably not back till December, which means it would take Oklahoma to make a bowl game or the college football playoffs for you to see Nick Anderson again. College football playoffs at this point is very unlikely, probably out of the question. Bowl game, you're not mathematically eliminated from there, but Sooner fans don't feel good about getting to 6 wins yet. But Deion Burks is day to day. Now, obviously, we're going to find out more about Dion Burke's health status as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, and we start to see some of these player availability reports and whether or not he's even listed on the report, which I would imagine if he's day-to-day right now, he's going to be listed. But we kind of saw Dion Burks last week in the South Carolina game. You saw him warming up pregame. He looked good, but didn't play. So you would imagine he's really that close. And if you get him out there against Ole Miss with what you have and switching your coordinators, potentially rummaging up some new plays, Ole Miss might not be prepared for Dion Burks. Now, obviously, Dion Burks might have to shake off a little bit of rust, but it's good news to hear that Dion Burks might potentially be back as soon as this week. Now, he did talk about Jalil Farouk, and he said he is a few weeks away. That one probably doesn't make you feel as good, not going to be there this week, but I do think you potentially see if they're going to play, if any of these wide receivers are going to play, I think you see them in the main game. Remember that main game, it's going to be a game where Oklahoma can get right. That is the game you look at and say, before you head into your final 3 games against Missouri, Bama, and LSU, you look at the main game as a way for Oklahoma to get right. And I would expect that if Jalil Farouk plans on playing it all the season, that would be the game he can play in, because it's probably a game that he's less likely to re-injure himself. And it would just be a good way for him to get back into the offense and get some actual in-game reps in a light capacity. So you would potentially target him there. And Farouk is the guy that could potentially come back next year as well. So if you could return this entire wide receiver core that was out for Oklahoma this season, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope that this offense next year under a new offensive coordinator, whether it's a Willie Corn, a Brennan Marion, a Mike Shanahan, a Bill Arbuckle, or anybody like that, you would feel very confident in the weapons that those offensive coordinators would be getting. And additionally, it makes it a little bit more of appealing of a job knowing you're going to have one of these quarterbacks in that room. You're going to have a stacked wide receiver room. We don't know what the running back room is going to look like yet. I would imagine you're going to have some portal exits, hopefully not too many. But this offense next year has the potential under a new offensive coordinator to be absolutely death. Like, you could literally kill your opponents with this new offense that Oklahoma could be rolling out in 2025. So jump in the comments below, join the discussion, give me your guys' thoughts, not only on who you guys think the offensive coordinator could be, but do you guys think these are great player updates from Brent Venables? Because I heard this about the wide receivers and what we heard from Jackson Arnold, and I said, hey, I can work with that. I can live with maybe getting 1 or 2 of these guys back this season. So jump in the comments below, join the discussion, hit that like, and hit that subscribe button.